All right, let's jump right into this explainer. I want to kick things off with a pretty wild metaphor from our source material today. Imagine someone hands you this old computer, and it's loaded with a demo version of a Star Wars game. You play it for hours, days even, totally assuming you've maxed out everything the game has to offer. But then, a friend comes over, clicks a tiny, hidden button you didn't even notice, and suddenly, bam, a door opens to this massive, entirely new world of gameplay you had absolutely no idea existed. You'd been needlessly wandering in circles the whole time.
And that brings us to a really critical question. I want you to ask yourself, are you living life in demo mode? Are you wandering in circles within a totally comfortable but super limited existence, completely unaware of the hidden doors waiting to be unlocked? Look, it's so easy to just accept the parameters handed to us and assume the snapshot we're looking at right now is the whole game. But just because it's your reality today doesn't mean it's where you have to stop.
Every single day we face a stark contrast. We can choose the habit of comfort, which is essentially living life as a jellyfish, just sort of floating along with whatever tide comes our way. And sure, a lack of planning feels like a burden lifted in the short term, but it completely robs you of your personal agency. To actually get where you want to go, you have to grab the wheel. Yes, that introduces friction, but facing that friction is an absolute necessity if you ever want to drive your own career in life.
To do that, we have to radically redefine how we see fear and difficulty. Stepping out into a fast-paced, unpredictable world, it's terrifying. But this idea of productive discomfort is the exact price tag for life's greatest rewards. Think about it. When you avoid all risk, you just box yourself in. You might avoid failing dramatically, but you also completely eliminate any chance of a massive upside. That discomfort you're feeling, it's not a warning sign to turn back. It's an invitation to level up.
Okay, so let's get super practical. A great way to apply that discomfort is drawn straight from a treadmill workout. It's called the 22-second rule. Imagine you're running, your lungs are absolutely burning, and you finally hit that 30-minute mark you planned on. Every fiber of your being wants to quit, but instead you push for just 22 more seconds past your breaking point. Pushing through that tiny, arbitrary little window physically and mentally expands your limits. It proves that our stopping points, they're usually just manufactured fictions we tell ourselves.
When you start applying those extra 22 seconds to your goals, you quickly realize a fundamental truth. Becoming who you want to be is simple, but it is definitely not easy. Just think about it. Walking is simple, right? But hiking up a steep, jagged mountain is not easy. The physical procedure of putting one foot in front of the other is exactly the same, but the context requires a completely different level of will, endurance, and determination.
And to conquer those mountains in our professional lives, we usually have to face something even scarier, the cave of our own minds. The mythologist Joseph Campbell actually hit the nail on the head when he said, "The cave you fear holds the treasure you seek." It's profound, right? The solutions and the growth we are so desperately looking for are almost always hiding in the exact places we are actively avoiding.
So, what is the biggest cave we avoid today? Honestly, it's just being alone with our thoughts. In our modern world, we are drowning in endless notifications, endless scrolling, instant dopamine hits. It's just so incredibly easy to live in constant distraction. But true clarity, that only comes when we turn off the noise and brave the silence of our own minds. Because when you outsource your thinking to screens, you're quite literally outsourcing your future.
How do we actually reclaim that focus? Through intentional solitude. Seriously, try taking just a 15-minute walk without your phone. No music, no podcasts. It sounds totally trivial, but it forces you to break through that initial awkward barrier of boredom. And once you do, you actually start to hear what your soul wants to say about your career. You begin to uncover hidden truths and finally separate what you actually want from what society simply expects of you.
Because here's the thing, if we don't pause in that solitude to figure out what actually lights us up, we forfeit mastery over our own lives. We just remain at the mercy of the wind. You have to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why is this my income? Why is this how I spend my Tuesday? If you don't deliberately pick a mountain worth climbing, you're going to keep floating with the tide, stuck playing in demo mode forever.
I really want you to reflect deeply right now. Are you currently staring at a chasm? Is there a massive challenge right in front of you that requires you to be stronger, bolder, and more vulnerable than you have ever been in your entire life? Listen, if your stomach is tied in absolute knots about a new opportunity, don't run from it. That fear is likely a perfect indicator that you are exactly where you need to be.
Now, understanding the cyclical nature of growth is absolutely crucial here. Think about a massive act of courage you took in the past, something that took everything out of you. Over time, that huge leap eventually became your mundane baseline status quo. Once you conquer a massive obstacle, that former ceiling literally becomes your new floor. Life is like a staircase. You tame the chaos, it becomes normal, and then the universe basically demands that you step up and level up all over again.
And as you level up, keep Thomas Edison's observation in the back of your mind. Massive success doesn't always announce itself with a parade and fireworks, and it rarely requires superhuman leaps. Instead, it is entirely dependent on the sheer will and discipline to not turn your back when you are just inches from the finish line. Success is, a lot of the time, merely hanging on when everyone else in their right mind would naturally let go.
And please remember, you don't need perfect conditions to make that final push. Take the story behind the Goo Goo Dolls' massive hit song Iris. The songwriter was at absolute rock bottom, divorced, completely broke, suffering from terrible writer's block. He went into an audition with a guitar that was literally missing 2 strings and just a few fragmented thoughts. But he moved forward with the broken pieces he had, and it resulted in a generational masterpiece. You don't need abundant resources. You just need to step forward with exactly what you have right now. This whole story completely shatters the myth of the giant leap. Exponential professional growth isn't about hitting a grand slam every single time you step up to the plate. It's all about repetition and adjustment. It's built in the aggregate of small, seemingly insignificant at-bats. You swing, you miss, you adjust your stance, you get a scrappy infield single. All of those small steps gradually chisel your future self out of stone.
Now, when you do finally step into the arena and face the Lions, let's be real, it's gonna hurt. But you have to separate the objective from the pain. You must tune out that internal dialogue begging you to quit, that little voice whispering that it's just too hard. Simplify your focus down purely to this: objective, action. Objective, action. The pain just becomes background noise, watching from the audience while you execute your assignment.
Because progress is a journey that stops exactly when you decide to hit the brakes. As the Dalai Lama noted, the only way to fail is to quit. The world might construct a terrifying, bumpy terrain, but you are the sole decider of when you lay down your arms. When the world demands you stop, you must find the conviction to keep stepping forward anyway. The obstacles out there can't actually tell you no. Only you can do that to yourself.
So what does this all mean for us? Well, every sunrise is a blank page. You have the God-given capability to map the unexplored territory of your life and build something completely new out of the mundane pieces scattered around you right now. You do not have to perpetuate yesterday's limitations. So I'll leave you with this. Will you make today amazing? Step out into that productive discomfort and finally unlock that hidden door? Or will it be just another day in demo mode? The choice is entirely yours.